Hi guys and dolls. Hey, have you ever been in circumstances that were beyond your control? How much of your life do you think is really in your control? Today, I'm going to split this message into 3 parts that's going to end up showing you keywords to get through anything in life. Absolutely anything. The first part of the story starts out when I was traveling for work. I was so fortunate to get to go to Halifax, Nova Scotia twice. It is the friendliest, kindest city on the planet. You'll go there and you'll notice it. It's quite beautiful too, but it's kind of not really a gem of Canada. You don't hear a lot of talk about Halifax. So back in December 6th, 1917, there were 2 ships in the Halifax harbor. One was a French ship loaded with ammunition. The other was a Norwegian ship loaded with supplies for relief efforts. Well, these 2 came into the Halifax harbor, one of the deepest in the world. I think it's second only to one in and they were wiggling back and forth, and people on the shores started to hear this back and forth between the whistles. One whistle means, I have the right of way. The other whistle says, no, get out of my way. One whistle, 2 whistles. One whistle, 2 whistles. The 2 ships collided, and a huge explosion happened. The biggest explosion pre-atomic bomb. Imagine that. It wiped out more than a half a mile of the town. Just a half-mile radius. I have some books that say 1.5 miles, but a half mile is pretty big. 1,700 people died. 9,000 were injured. It was horrific. This is December 6th. They're just about recuperating from it. In early January, they're all camped up on a hill, all the homeless people. It was a blizzard on December 6th, but then one of the worst blizzards in the whole history of the country came and took a good toll on those campers that had already become homeless because of the tragedy of the explosion. The closest experience I have to that is riding up in the mountains with my cowboy husband who trained horses. And he had those horses for 60 to 90 days. And at the end of that time, we would usually arrange a 4 to 5 day trip into the backcountry to get those horses used to bridges, rocks. Believe it or not, I've been on horses that are afraid of boulders, trails, any kind of trail riding, the scent of bear. A lot of horses are raised in barns and they don't understand those natural settings anymore. Crazy, but true. We would take these trips. We would always start at the trailhead at sunset. Not a good way to go, but he had to do work for the rest of the day, so we would start at sunset. So most of the time we had unfamiliar horses. Even when I was riding my own horse, a familiar horse, there were things that would happen that I would have no control over. One time we were walking up this steep trail, narrow trail, up to a teeny tiny little saddle in between 2 ridges. And this horse was huffing and puffing and kind of getting excited about it. And I think there was something else going on. Maybe another horse was getting excited and everything, but he was kind of bouncing around and his breast strap broke. That's the strap that holds the saddle in place so I don't slide backwards on this trail. Everything was okay, but you never know what's going to happen. Another time I had a training horse that was a rescue, so really thin without developed withers, and we were walking down a trail and I slid the other way, right down the side of her neck and rolled off down the embankment. Another time I was on my own horse and we were on a ledge with a drop off. He was just prancing around because he was wondering when the bear was going to get there. All intimidating circumstances, not like Halifax. When we would hit that trail at sunset, within an hour it would start raining every time. And for the 4 or 5 days that we were on the trail, 60 miles usually, it would rain. And your feet would be stuck in those leather caverns called cowboy boots. It doesn't matter how many wool socks you put on, your feet just sit there and freeze in that cold, rainy weather. The pack horses with their panniards swaying to and fro, sliding every time the trail gets a little slippery. The horses, you hear the click, click, click of going across the rock of the mountain, and then you hear a slide. It's all intimidating and scary. And then you finally bed down at 10 or 11 when you get into camp. You bed down in the rain and you wake up in the snow. On those trail rides, I learned very quickly there's nothing you can do. Complaining's not going to change it. You're 35 miles in, you can't turn around because that makes your trip 70 miles instead of 60. You have to go through it. The only way is through it. And around every turn you're wondering, am I going to have some cover in the pines? Am I going to be out in the middle of a beautiful meadow with lightning? That's the second part of today's message. The third part of today's message is what we're dealing with in the United States with Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. I look at the pictures of destruction and I'm just overwhelmed because there's no way we can even fathom the width and the depth of the destruction in that area. People have lost their lives, they've lost their families, they've lost their homes, they've lost their way to make a living. They're living in tents with winter on the way. Yesterday it was supposed to be 17 degrees in Asheville. Now all three of these stories have a common thread. There's no way we can control this. There's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do is think tomorrow something will happen. It might be the same thing, but we might know how to deal with it better. Something better might happen. Something worse might happen. So why am I giving you this message? This message is for whatever you're dealing with. In the next 30 minutes, it could be completely different. In the next 5 minutes, it could be completely different. The only constant is change. And when situations come our way that we don't think we have any control over, or we don't have any control over, and we don't like them, we can remember those 3 words. Something will happen. Seriously, try it. Just make that your mantra. Well, I don't like what I'm in, but something will happen. I don't like the way they're treating me, but something will happen. I don't like the way my health is right now, but something will happen. Hey, I'm hoping you're having a great day today, living in gratitude. Thanks for joining, and I will see you next time. Hey, did you subscribe? Thank you. Bye.